Mi pelo está mal de vuelta.
¿Qué?
Mi pelo está mal.
Quedó muy rico.
Those are the times. So we're on Sadik Vav 96, Eruvin. So we're dealing with the machlokas in the Mishnah between the Chachamim, who said that if you have to bring in a pair of tefillin, you could only bring one at a time, versus Rabbi Gamliel, who said you could bring in two at a time. So we're trying to explain the machlokas. So Iboy Seima, the Kulam Alot says lo boy kavana. Really, we could say that to be Yotze the mitzvah, everyone holds you don't need kavana to be Yotze the mitzvah. So what's the machlokes? The question will be, do you have to have kavana to be oiver bal toisif? The Tanakama serve a lavar mishum bal toisif loy by kavana. That if you're going to wear a second pair of tefillin, you're over bal toisif even without kavana. So that's why they don't allow you to wear a second pair of tefillin. The Rav Gamliel sover lavar mishum bal toisif boy kavana. So you in order to be oiver bal toisif, you need special kavana to be yotzei a second mitzvah. And this guy, when he wears the two pairs of tefillin, he's not going to have kavana for the mitzvah. So you don't have to worry about bal toisif. That's one way of explaining the machlokes. We boy say that Edis fear on the Shabbos man tefillin, that if the normative opinion is that Shabbos is his man tefillin, and the kulam lo lover by kavana, and everybody holds that you don't need kavana to be oiver bal toisif, but lo lot says boy kavana, and to be yotzei a mitzvah, you also don't need kavana. And both the Tanakama and Rab Gamliel hold that Shabbos is not the Zman Tefillin. However, they argued about the issue of being over bal toisef shelo bizmano. Tanakama server lo boy kavona, that since it's lav zman tefillin, and yet you're going to put on the tefillin, and even though you don't have kavona, you're going to be over bal toisef. Rabbi Gamliel server lav shelo bizmano boy kavona. No, even if it's not the zman tefillin, and now you put on a pair of tefillin, you have to have kavana to be over bal toisef. And therefore, since you can avoid having kavana, you can wear two pair. So ihachi Rab Meir zugechad namilo. So according to Rab Meir, you should if there's going to be a problem with bal toisef, and meaning normally you put on tefillin during the week, you don't put it on Shabbos. And now that you put on a pair of tefillin on Shabbos, you're being bal toisef. So how could Rab Meir, who was the Tanakama, hold that you can even put on one pair? Another problem. Based on this, Hayoshin b'Shmini b'Sukkah Yilkeh. So you're not Shmini Atzeres is not Sukkos. There's no mitzvah of sleeping in the sukkah on a Shmini, but in Chutz La'aretz, Shmini is also possibly Shvi. So Rashi says, "Anon meisav yasvina b'Shmini." The suffix Shvi lachatchila. We sit in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres because it might be the seventh day. But if you're going to tell me Shalom Bizmana, you're going to be over bal toisef even below kavana. So why, if you slept in the sukkah on Shmini, you should get malchus? We see you don't get malchus. So this is not elamachvarta kedusharim ikara. So this last approach, where we try to say that it's based on this machlokes, that doesn't seem to be correct. So now the Gemara wants to investigate who is the Tana that does hold that Shabbos is man tefillin. Uman Shabbos lays Shabbos man tefillin, Rabbi Akiva, says the Gemara. The Tanya, it says by the Korban Pesach, Vishomarta es achuka zos lemoada miyamim yamima. And the same parak has this is one of the parshas of tefillin. It also has the parshas of tefillin there. So the Tanakama learns yamim v'lo leilos, that the mitzvah of tefillin is the day and not night, and miyami means lo kol yami. Prat l'Shabbos is v'yamim tovim did Rabbi Yosef Glili. Rabbi Yosef Glili learns the miyutim from this pasuk to exclude Shabbos from tefillin. While Rabbi Kiva Omer lo nemer chu kazu al Pesach bilvad. This pasuk only has to do with Korban Pesach. That from now on, year after year, we have to do Korban Pesach. It has nothing to do with tefillin. Therefore, Rabbi Kiva doesn't learn the exclusion of miyamim to exclude tefillin from Shabbos. So he holds that Shabbos is man tefillin. So the Gemara attacks this. Elahadis. Now, what about the following Mishnah? HaPesach ve'amila mitzvah aseh. That the aseh of Korban Pesach and the aseh of Mila are not negative commandments. They're positive commandments. Yet, if you violate those, you get kores. You don't bring a Korban Chatas, but there's kores by Mavatal, these two mitzvahs aseh. Now, Lema Deloik Rabbi Kiva. Perhaps we would say that Mishnah is not Rabbi Kiva. The Rabbi Kiva, because if you're going to say Rabbi Kiva holds that the pasuk of Vishomartas Achuka Zos is only going on the Korban Pesach, even the Moikila Pesach, then Lav Nami Ika. Then the word Vishomarta, referring to Korban Pesach, would be a lav that you get chorus for, and you have to bring a Korban Chatas. Kid Avin Am Rabbi Loi, Damar Avin Am Rabbi Loi, Kol Mokum Shenemer Hishomer Pen Va'al Eino Elo Below Saseh. And we wouldn't learn it as an aseh, we would learn it as a lo saseh, according to Rabbi Kiva. Where it says, no, that's no proof. Ilu Tem Rabbi Kiva. We could learn that Mishnah even according to Rabbi Kiva. Hishamer de lav lav. When it uses the word Hishamer, but it's referring to a negative, then in a chanami it becomes a lav, you get malchus. But Hishamer da aseh, aseh. Okay. So we're still holding where we are now, that it seems to be Rabbi Kiva who holds that Shabbos is man tefillin. Freik the Gemara of the Rabbi Kiva Shabbos man tefillinu. Is that correct? How can Rabbi Kiva hold that Shabbos man tefillin? Tanya, we have a barais Rabbi Kiva Omer. Yachol yaniach adam tefillin b'Shabbos v'yomim toivim. I might think that a person should wear tefillin on Shabbos. Talmud Loimar, it says by tefillin vayalacha laos al yadecha. Tefillin shall be a sign. That's Misha Tzrichin Ois. That's Sunday through Friday needs Ois. And therefore you have to put tefillin on those days. Yotzu Elu Shehin Gufan Ois. Yomim Shabbos and Yomim Tovim themselves are in Ois and don't need the Ois of tefillin. So from this price, it's clear that Rabbi Kiva holds that Shabbos is Lavsman tefillin. So we go back to our question, who is the Tana that holds that Shabbos is man tefillin? Elahai Tanahu. It's the following Tana, the Tanya. Haner Balayla, somebody wakes up at night, Ratza Choylets. If he wants, he takes off his tefillin. Ratza Miniach. If he wants, he puts on in tefillin. The Rab Nosson. And if you remember, in the previous pasuk, V'shamartas achuka zois l'moya adam yomim v'loy leilois, mi yomim v'lo kol yomim prat l'Shabbos. So this excluding night goes hand in hand with Shabbos. So therefore, Rav Nosson, who holds that Laila is man tefillin must also hold that Shabbos is man tefillin. Yonis and Akitoni are ein manichin tefillin b'Laila. Now, mi de Laila l'Tana Kama is man tefillin, Shabbos not is man tefillin. That's the Havamin of the Gemara, that Laila and Shabbos go hand in hand. However, the Gemara rejects that. Dilma Svirale, maybe you can disjoin them. Laila zman tefillinu, but Shabbos loves zman tefillinu. And where do we see that's the Hashamin of Rabbi Kiva? We see, in fact, Rabbi Kiva, the Omar Laila zman tefillinu, because he learned that Laila is not excluded from the words v'shomartas halku azos, because he learned that was just on the Korban Pesach. So he felt Laila was zman tefillin. Yet we saw clearly, because of the brisa about Os, that Shabbos loves zman tefillinu. So we see you're allowed to stake out a position side by Laila and side by Shabbos, which is different. So now we're back to the question: who is the Tana that holds that Shabbos is man tefillin? Elahai Tanahu. It's the following Tana. The Tanya, Michal Bas Kushi. This is Kushi is Shaul HaMelech, and David HaMelech referred to Shaul as Kushi because he was like smooth, like a Kushi, regarding mitzvahs. That's what the Meforshim say. So it says, Michal Bas Kushi Aisa Manachas Tefillin V'lo Michu B'Chachamim. The Chachamim didn't protest. Michal Bas Kushi wore tefillin, and the Chachamim didn't protest. Rashi says, Bas Kushi is Bas Shaul. And the Isha Shayona Isa Oila Rega V'lo Michu B'Chachamim. Even though it says Kol Zechurcha, that people to make Aliyah is only males, the wife of Yonah would also make Aliyah V'lo Michu B'Chachamim, and the Chachamim didn't protest. Now, why didn't they protest? V'lo Michu B'Chachamim Al Maksavri. They didn't protest when Michal wore tefillin. Why not? Because they must have held mitzvah saseh shelo man gramahu. They held, right, women are only potter for mitzvah saseh shazman gramahu, that are tied to time, but mitzvahs that are supposed to be done all the time. So basically, these chachamim that they're quoting hold that tefillin was put on all time, daytime, nighttime, and Shabbos, which makes it a mitzvah she'ein azman grama. It's not tied to time. Therefore, that's why they didn't protest, because Michal could do it. Right? Rashi says, mitzvah tefillin kol shor gam b'layl gam b'Shabbos. And therefore, it's not considered, and therefore, it seems like this is the Tana that holds that Shabbos is mad tefillin, because if you're going to say tefillin is a mitzvah that is done all the time, it's done on Shabbos as well. And for the Gemara, no, it's no raya that this Tana holds regarding what the status of tefillin is on Shabbos. It's something else. The Omer Noshim Soimchois Rishus. So there's a din on every korban that the bailim, the owners, had to lean on the korban. Now it says Libnei Yisrael v'lo Libnos Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael soimchim v'lo b'nos Yisrael soimchim. So from a drasha that it's only to male Jews, not to female Jews. However, according to Rabbi Yossi, a woman can choose to do something that she's not necessarily mechuyev to do. And therefore, over there as well, Michal, the reason why the Chacham did not protest about Michal Bas Shaul, not because Shabbos is man tefillin, because they agree with Rabbi Yossi that by mitzvahs that they're not mechayev, they're allowed to choose to do it. And you got to learn that way, says the Gemara. Ishta shel Yonah The wife of Yonah, I saw she would also make aliyah l'regel, and they didn't protest. I understand. But aliyah l'regel is clearly a mitzvah tied to time. So why didn't they protest when Yonah's wife went up aliyah l'regel? It's clear as Eliksava Rishus. They hold of this sheet of Rabbi Yossi that women have the right, have the Rishus to be Makayim mitzvahs that they're not Makayim in, and it's not considered Bal Toisif. Al-Chanami Rishus. So we're back in a Chanami. We accept the protest by the Gemara to say, you can't prove from there that the Chachamim hold that Shabbos is man tefillin. No, over there it's because they hold like Rabbi Yossi that Noshim Somchos Rishus. We're back to our original question: who is the Tana that holds that Shabbos is man tefillin? Elahai Tana, it's the following Tanya. The Tanya, Amotzei tefillin. You find tefillin out in a field. Machnisen zug zug. You bring them in one pair by one pair. Echad ha'ish, the echad ha'isha, males and females. Echad chadoshes ve'echad yeshanos. Div Rab Meir. New tefillin, old tefillin. According to Rab Meir. Rab Yehuda oiser v'chadoshes. Remember, because if it's new, we can't see the knots, and therefore might be an amulet, a kameya, umater b'yeshanos. So the Gemara analyzes. The point of the machlokes is only between new tefillin and old. But you see, then they both allow the woman to bring in the tefillin on Shabbos as well. Must be because this Tana holds that Shabbos is man tefillin, and it's for men and women. And if it's, why is it? Because Shabbos is the time of tefillin, and therefore tefillin becomes a mitzvah. Shema mino mitzvah saseh shelo zman gramahu, v'chol mitzvah saseh she'ena zman gramahu nashim chayavois. And that's why they were allowed to bring the tefillin in. And from here we seem to have a Tana that holds that Shabbos is man tefillin. Freit the Gemara, who said maybe v'dil mesavalak Rabbi Yossi domer nashim soimchos rishus. Here as well, maybe it has something to do with whether Shabbos is man tefillin. It's just that an Isha can choose to accept a mitzvah even though she's not mechayiv in it. And really, Shabbos is not man tefillin. Gemara says, no, lo sakadaita. That we can't say. Because here you have two Tanoim of this Bryce you just quoted. You have Rab Meir and Rab Yehuda. And the Gemara is going to prove to us now, D'lo Rab Meir savalak Rab Yossi, D'lo Rab Yehuda savalak Rab Yossi. We're going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that neither of these Tanoim hold like Rab Yossi. So you can't invoke the sheet of Rab Yossi to say Noshim Soimchos Rishus. Therefore, you're going to have to say that this Paraisa holds that Shabbos is man tefillin. Where do we see that they don't hold like Rab Yossi? Lo Rab Meir savalak Rab Yossi does not. Ein ma'akvenes atinoikes meliskoya. A child wants to blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, you let him blow because for chinuch, to allow him to learn, even though there's a little isser to blow, that's not mitzvah. In the end, they're going to be mechayiv to do it. For children, you don't have to stop them. Implying hanoshim ma'akvin. Yet noshim, now you prevent. Why do you prevent them? You prevent them because they're not mechuyev at all, right? Because certainly Tkiyah Shofar is a mitzvah saseh zman gram. It's tied to time. Women are potter, and obviously this brisa holds that they're not allowed to take it upon themselves to blow as a rishus, right? And an anonymous, unnamed Mishnah is always who? Stam Mishnah, Stam Masis, and Rab Meir. Stam Masis, Rab Meir. So we clearly see that Rab Meir doesn't hold like Rab Yossi. that women can have can choose to do a mitzvah saseh shazman gram if they want. So therefore, that's one proof. And the law Rabbi Yehuda suffer like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda clearly doesn't look like Rabbi Yossi. The Tanya says Daber el Bnei Yisrael the Somach. We darshan Bnei Yisrael soimchin v'Bnei Yisrael soimchois. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon oimrim noshim soimchois rishus. So we see Rabbi Yossi is arguing with the Tana Kama that women can do smicha, but the Tana Kama of this Baraisa we just quoted hold they cannot do it. Now, who is the Tana Kama? Stam Sifra Mani. Now, this Sifra is the Midrashim on Sefer Vayikra, and we know from Seder Olam that who is the author of Sifra? Rabbi Yehuda. So it's clear that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't know the Rabbi Yossi. So the Baraisa we quoted of Amotzi Tefillah Machnisin Zug Zug Echad Ish V'Echad Isha that we quoted above is, and in the name of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, clearly both of them hold that Shabbos man tefillin. So we've identified who the Tanoim are regarding that issue. On Rabbi Lazar, so the Shulchan Aruch Paskins in Orach Chaim Lamed, ein mitzvahs tefillin b'Shabbosos v'yomim tovim. V'lo od ela she'osur lanicham. It's prohibited. Shu zilzul b'kedushas haShabbos. V'legabe anochos tefillin b'chol hamoed nechleku adeios. Od ben haposkim rishonim. Right? It's machlokes chol hamoed. V'vi reis lakan lakan im'ador toli b'yisrael malacha od b'kedushas hayom. V'kiven shal pi hakabola ein manichin tefillin b'chol hamoed. Nagu kein kol hasfardim v'chasidim ben Ashkenazim v'chein minhag Eretz Yisrael. Now, if you look up Orach Chaim Lamed Ches, Noshim b'tfilin, gam im rotze isha la'achmar latzma laniach tefillin ein manichin la. If a woman wants to put on tefillin, we don't allow her. Umoichim b'yada, we protest. And says the Magen Avram, the reason for it, she'ein anoshim zrizos b'shmiras gufan b'tahara. Lu al pi Yerushalmi v'apsikta shemichu chachamim b'michas pashol. Here, Talmud Bavli, the Chacham did not protest, but in the Yerushalmi, in the Psikta, they did protest.
Didn't Rashi's daughters put on tefillin, Ernie?
Well, again, Michal Bashol is a bigger raya.
Yeah, no, I understand, but then you have in the later generations.
Yeah, in a Chanami. In a Chanami. But it has to do with Shmiras Guf Naki. That appear because women go through a period of time in the month, etc., where it was thought that because even by us, we're supposed to wear tefillin a whole day, but we else cannot keep a Guf Naki. So for 30 minutes when we daven, we're allowed to put on tefillin. So the Magen Avram and the Mishnah Berurah brings this concept of Shmiras Gufo B'Tahar, but otherwise, Me'ikar Adin, it looks like it is a mitzvah that is really totally both at night and on Shabbos, and Me'ikar Adin, they could put on tefillin because it's a mitzvah sashesh lozman grama. That is one of perhaps the reason why there's a machlokes between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi regarding the protest. And that they don't say that women are potter from tefillin because it's a mitzvah say shazman grama. They say it because of this guf naki business. Back to the Gemara. You find strings of tzitzis in the market. So it depends. L'shoy noise, that means big swaths of wool, psulos, because maybe it wasn't done l'shem tzitzis. This is done for some kind of fabric house, and by tzitzis you need asiyah lishma. But if you find just strings, chutin ksherin. Why do we say Lashonis are not allowed if you find them? Because maybe they were dyed just for garments. So chotinami name adaita the glimatavinu. I mean, even if you find threads, it also could have been dyed just for garment and not for tzitzis. So the Gemara answers b'shazurim. Shazurim means they're 3-ply. This is only by tzitzis. Shazurim. So maybe it was made for like a hem where you needed 3-ply thread. So the Gemara says b'muvsokin. They're already cut into small pieces. The kula hayvani letarchi inshi. If it wasn't for tzitzis, they wouldn't have done it that. That means if they would have done it for hems, they would have left it long. By cutting it, it's clear that the cut threads are done for tzitzis. Meaning, we had chadashim, if you found new tefillin versus old tefillin. We said new tefillin could be kameas. So if Rava wants to know, what do you mean? A person's going to make a kameya like tefillin? It's a very complicated, why would they do it? We said by chadashas you're not allowed to bring them in because maybe it's a kameya. But I understand, says Rava, people are going to be they're going to be matriach so much. Go and teach that it's based on this. If you find woolen fabric in the market, cut threads are permitted. And because a person's not going to be matriach, so as well, they're not going to be matriach to make these kameyas. Amar Rava, I understand. Because they said that statement. You're going to reject the whole B'rais of Atnan. Look, he wanted to show that you see people did make, they were matriach to make these kameyas, even if they're shaped like tefillin. This issue, whether people will be matriach to do this or not, is machlokes tanoim, the Tanya. And we'll learn the machlokes tanoim tomorrow. So we decided tomorrow we're going to learn at 3:00.
All right.
And then Motzei Shabbos we'll learn